I'm Edie Lush, Executive Editor at Hub Culture. Out here, the sun has set, but I'm very pleased to be here with a shining light. Marisa Drew, how are you?
Thank you very much. I'm really well and glad to be back here again this year.
Good. Chief Sustainability Officer at Standard Chartered. Now, I'd like you to start with talking about sustainability. There's been a lot of talk about that coming up to this Davos, about whether it's still important, whether it's still important in the markets for companies. Give us a sense of your take on that to begin with.
Look, it's certainly a fair question and fair challenge, and as you walk the promenade, you don't see sustainability plastered on everybody's pavilions like you did in years past. However, what's interesting, and I think this would maybe come as a surprise to many people, if you ask the World Economic Forum team, when they poll the chief executives, so not those in my position in sustainability, but the CEOs that are here, what are the top three things that they're focused on? Surprise, surprise, number one is AI.
Right.
Number two, of course, is geopolitics. But guess what? Number three is climate and nature. So it is that high on the agenda of a very big agenda. So I think that's kind of data point number one. Data point number two is actually where is the money flowing, right? It's all about commerce, economics, and capital investment. And in 2025, we'll hit an all-new record year for investment in sustainable infrastructure. So 2.4 trillion is the prevailing number now that everyone's coalescing around. And that's investing in real-scale infrastructure projects, wind, solar, next-generation electric batteries, et cetera, et cetera. So underneath a lot of the headlines, the money is flowing. And then in the public markets where I operate, where sustainable finance is being raised to then in turn invest, will be thereabouts, all record highs in the public market. So I'm relatively optimistic that this big super tanker in slow motion, not the Venezuelan one, but the other one is heading in the right direction, and there's no turning back.
Well, let's talk about carbon credits. We've talked about that in past interviews, but let's talk about some of the projects that you're involved in that you're seeing real impact.
Yes. Well, I am incredibly excited. We came off the heels of COP where all eyes were on Brazil and the Amazonian rainforest. And one of the biggest challenges to protect against deforestation and to provide capital for reforestation and the indigenous people who are the best stewards of the land, it's tricky. You know, how do you create a commercial proposition for that? And there are projects that have some commercial returns to them. But in general, what is the biggest asset that exists in the Amazon? It is the Amazon. And so carbon credits are a way to fund the protection and to monetize that capital asset. So it was just an incredible coincidence, one of those Davos moments that just before we walked here for the interview, in the room next door, I just bumped into a group of indigenous people who are from the state of Acre, which is one of the largest Brazilian states. And the state of Acre hired Standard Chartered to sell 5 million carbon credits over the next several years. That is the largest jurisdictional project under this moniker called Red++, which is what vets these credits. But all of that money is designed to flow back to the Amazon, to the Amazonian people who are the best stewards of the environment, to help them protect their ways and also to teach us, because a lot of times what we're finding is the practices of the indigenous people, whether it's the way they farm or whether they look after the land, is something that we can all learn from. It uses very little resources and it's many times more efficient than some of the things that we're doing today. So that's exciting.
So that's exciting.
That's
Good that we gave
and
you a Davos moment.
Yeah, I'll give you a Davos moment. I've got another one if you'd like.
Let's talk about Ghana.
Okay. So Ghana, again, very exciting. It's a novel, first of its kind financing. For those of you who aren't familiar with a lot of the terminology, there's something called Article 6 in the carbon space. Good jargon for you all. But Article 6 has been something we've been working on for over a decade, which is to say that for countries who have committed to decarbonize and want to use carbon credits to do that, the ability to sell and buy credits across borders is super complicated because you've got different starting points, different prices, different mechanics. And Article 6 is a way to create harmonization across borders. So this project that we've been involved in, which has taken some time to materialize, is a bond. It is a green bond that the proceeds of which will be delivered, and we've done this with the World Bank, will be delivered to an organization that will then deploy the capital to replace the existing cook stoves in Ghana in over 400,000 households. And unfortunately, the way people cook today in a lot of these villages is using wood and other inputs which are horrible for human health. So if you can replace them with clean cooking stoves, you're helping from a human health point of view, but you're also creating an economy because these cook stoves are less carbon emitting. So you can generate carbon credits. And these carbon credits are actually going to go towards the country defined contributions of Switzerland and Ghana. So it's a cross-border beautiful expression of an Article 6 transaction.
Fascinating.
Delivering super, super big impact.
So in terms of impact, you have quite often argued that adaptation and resilience are dramatically underfunded.
Yes.
Underfinanced relative to mitigation,
Correct.
especially in places like Africa or Asia. So I wonder what innovations you're seeing that are making promisable some of the scalable financing.
Yeah, and thank you for raising that. And it's been a topic that we've been on for several years now because it's more than 90+% of climate finance, rightfully so, was trying to stave off or protect against global warming. But we know the realities. The realities are what we're seeing on the mountain here where there's a whole lot of green. And in Switzerland, most of the ski resorts will tell you that they've lost between 30 and 40 days of ski season because there just isn't any snow.
Right.
That's a real economic, disruption or intervention. Now, if you come to our markets in the developing world, they're disproportionately affected because they don't have the financial wherewithal for Plan Bs. So we need to have capital flow to provide money to re-engineer businesses, commerce, the way we build things, the way we grow crops, et cetera, all needs to adapt to extreme weather events. And so this is where we've been trying to raise this as a topic for the private sector because the governments don't have the sums needed. And it's been a bit of a funny thing to get people to pivot away from mitigation. But now I'm incredibly excited because it's rippling through every conversation we have. It is on the table. So where are some of the innovations? A lot of really, really good data and research has gone into being incredibly precise about dissecting under different climate scenarios where dollars can have the most impact in adaptation, what are the things that we can do to have that outsized return, and then trying to help country leaders think about policy because if you do enact things like changing your building codes, requiring more resilient building materials, guess what? When the big one comes, those buildings will stand. And so whether it's McKinsey, who just produced a report last week, and I did a panel with them, very thoughtful. Morphosis, another organization that does wonderful work, they put out a big index and they ranked the countries of the world based on their movement toward adaptation and their ability to adapt. And it helps us then in the finance world to figure out where do we want to direct our energies. And then at a concrete level on financing, we've had some wonderful transactions this year. One that won, I think, Adaptation Sustainability Deal of the Year, whatever the title is.
An award-winning deal.
I'll take the award. I'll take the award. But it is for a very traditional solar manufacturer out of China. And China is the largest producer of solar panels that go on rooftops. But what they were realizing is when these big storms hit, particularly in hurricane-prone areas, the big one comes, guess what? These things fly off of the roof, you're off the grid.
Yeah.
So a whole new line of product, which is hurricane resistant. And then if you turn to the Middle East, where the prevalence of sandstorms is increasing because of climate change, when the sand hits these things, it hits them and then they become dysfunctional. So a whole new line. So if you think about just that one example of a manufacturing line that we financed with a very deliberate adaptation at its core, basically, and where the deployment of that's going to go all over the world to help protect against weather events, you can kind of get a feel for just how gigantic, I call it the infinite addressable market. The more you think about this, the opportunities to invest and for commercial return are everywhere, which is what is really attractive to the private sector. So it's on the table.
Fascinating. Okay, so from sandstorms in the Middle East to
oceans.
All
of the ground.
So we've just seen some exciting news last week from London around the High Seas Treaty.
Yes.
You've talked about the blue economy investment as a ripple when we need a wave.
Yes.
And from what I understand, this High Seas Treaty is super important.
It's a big deal.
So give some context to that,
Sure.
and then where you see the blue economy going.
So in this, what would otherwise be characterized as a highly, highly fractious world where it's very, very difficult to get agreement across borders, across countries, the High Seas Treaty is a beautiful example where a common mission in service of all of our well-being we were able to accomplish more than 65 countries, all signing onto a treaty to protect the seas outside of the borders that they own. Because every country has the right, or effectively owns, the real estate 200 miles off its coastline. So you can patrol for overfishing and all the things that might be creating negative events. But 201 miles, it's open season. And if nobody's looking after that, fish don't respect borders, we have real problems. So 60 some odd countries came together to sign a treaty that says we need to collectively protect, patrol, and ensure that we are looking after this wonderful asset of ours, the ocean. So that's a big deal. So and that took over a decade to come together. So it's not a fast process,
not easy,
but it's a win, and we'll take the win.
Right.
On the finance side, we are seeing blue finance scale. We are seeing funds, more and more funds get raised. I support a fund that has been sponsored by His Serene Highness Prince Albert called the Reocean Fund. We're in the process of raising capital, and the response that we've gotten to investing, but also the pipeline of really interesting companies. I had a roundtable yesterday with a whole bunch of actors, and one organization called Catapult has invested, and will surprise you perhaps, more than 90 venture stage ocean-related companies, and the returns that they have generated have been around 20 to 25%.
Wow.
This is exactly where traditional private equity is, and most people always say ocean finance doesn't generate money, there's no pipeline. Here are wonderful examples of our ability to debunk the myth.
Fantastic. Well, that is a fantastic note and positive note to
need a
end
positive
on.
note on a busy day
Exactly.
as we move into whatever the next thing
Whatever
is.
the next thing is. All right, Marisa, thank you very much,
Okay.
as always, for stopping by the Hub
Thanks
Culture
for having
Studio.
me.
I'm Edie Lush.